What was a life-changing mistake you made?
Quitting a great job with huge advancements when I was 19 because a girl. The job took me out on the road for 2-3 weeks at a time and I didn't want to leave her for that long at the beginning of our relationship. Fuck, that was dumb. It took me 8 years to make that much money again, and that girl dumped me after 5 months of dating. If it's any comfort, 19-year-old me would have done the same thing. And while it looks dumb now, it may even have been the correct choice at the time. If you had taken the job, your post might as well have been "I lost the most wonderful girl in the world because I decided to chase a career opportunity, and got fired after 5 months." Heading home after a nice motorcycle ride on a Sunday evening. Decide on a whim to take a small 10-minute detour because it was one of the last days of the year with nice weather. Crashed into the side of a van with 80 km/h that didn't give me the right of way. Spent 12 days in intensive care, ended up with persistent health problems and a reconstructed shoulder which left me partially disabled and unable to do sports, lift anything serious, etc. It was a nice ride though. Cigarette? Yeah man, why not? I smoked for a little over 20 years and man was it hard to quit, especially because I enjoyed it. I was finally able to kick the habit 4 years back and now I feel much better. I still get cravings from time to time but I'll never go back. Don't stop trying. I quit about 5 months ago, kinda. I haven't had one sober since. It's when I'm drinking I just have to have one. I have absolutely no desire to smoke until I have a beer and then suddenly I'm chain smoking. In my mid-20s I was dating and living a wonderful woman, but I was extremely immature and did a terrible job of keeping my life in order and keeping up decent employment. She gave me so many chances to get my shit together, but time and time again I would just be a useless lump and she eventually broke up with me and kicked me out. I had to go live with my parents. I completely changed after that. Video games became something I did after all my responsibilities were met, not something that kept me from them. I stopped smoking weed for a while so I could land a reliable job, even though the one I found ended up not drug testing me. I started saving money because I couldn't stand living with my parents. Eventually my ex and I reconnected and we eventually moved back in together. We ended up getting a new place that was ours. I had moved into her place, and things just kept getting better. We're now married and homeowners, and I'm waiting to hear about an even better job opportunity. It's a shame we had to come to that for me to get my shit together, but it changed my life. Eating my feelings when depressed during most of college without also exercising. When the freshman 15 turns into the senior 60. Going to grad school. I'm thinking of going, care explaining why? Sure, I left a relatively high-paying job in industry thinking that a PhD would allow me to advance within industry or at least broaden my career options. However, it did exactly the opposite. I became pigeonholed in my narrow academic field and found myself with very few options as graduation approached. I did find a postdoc position where I essentially did the same experiments I was doing as a grad student. All along I had been applying to jobs in industry as well as academia with very little response. Funding for my postdoc position dried up and I ended up settling for a bachelor's level position with a state agency completely out of my field. I was very lucky in that I was thrown a lifeline by my PhD advisor after a year, which connected me with my current position. I'm not exactly in my dream job, but I enjoy aspects of it and I've achieved some success. It's a new field for me, but one that I much prefer over my previous one. I'm not trying to discourage you from exploring grad school, but my experience is hardly unique. My advice is to talk to as many people in your field of interest as possible to get an overall sense of what career options you'll have and what the job market is going to be like in the near future. I'll also throw a plug in for /r/grad school. They can be super helpful in answering your questions. In the mid-2000s I used to work a call center job while finishing up uni. It was a startup fintech type job. People got promoted quickly and they paid above minimum wage. But I was naive and didn't realize how backstabby some people could be to get ahead. I carpooled with who I thought was a friend until he started secretly recording our conversations in the car to curry favor with my managers. Thinking I was safe, I was honest about my feelings about certain things at work, and sure enough he played the recordings to my bosses, and soon after I noticed a change in how I was being treated. They let me go with severance when I caught on to the fact that I was being asked to train my replacement. This led to about 10 months of unemployment with employment insurance and me finding a much better paying job. It was a blow, but I learned from it, and I'm glad I'm not stuck in what is ultimately a dead-end call center job, no matter how they spin job titles. Not ever taking the time to sit down and think particularly hard about the career I wanted or how to realistically go about getting it before I went to college. 9 years and 1 liberal arts degree later, I'm not using said degree at all, and I'm working in an office at a job not at all related to what my degree is in, nor what I desire to do. I want to go back to school, but I need money. I need to go to school to do what I want to and to make money, but I need money to go back to school. Fuck. When I was fresh out of school with a useless degree in creative writing and no experience, in the middle of the recession, I interviewed to be a marketing coordinator for a local fishing resort, marina that was also headquarters for a few dozen vacation resorts along the west coast. Pay was great. Job perks included free travel and food, accommodation at any of these resorts, and a fairly free-form job in creating print and web ads, blog material, doing some market research and interviews. It sounded super fun. I asked the interviews and felt like a shoo-in based on how they were talking to me. I prepared for my life of luxury. They asked me to just throw together a quick ad concept. I was staying at my girlfriend's house when the request came in and she didn't have Adobe CS, so I threw something together quickly in Paint. Yes, Paint, kind of assuming it didn't really matter since it was just a concept. It was terrible. They went silent, I didn't get the job, and I faced a difficult few years of racking up credit card debt, digging up freelance work, and mass applying to jobs that never contacted me back. I'm doing okay now, but I always wonder what things would be like if that had worked out. Buying my house. It's fucking cursed and holding me back. A lot of people think that buying a house is a great investment 100% of the time. It's just not true. Best case scenario, owning a house is a lot of work and costs a lot, but in the end gives you a return on the investment. Worst case scenario, it sucks you dry in a way that renting really never could. Sometimes I really miss having a landlord replace stuff that breaks. Driving down a hill in a quad bike in full throttle and crashing into a concrete wall. Congrats on not being dead. Breaking up with a girl I dated in college. I thought it wasn't working, turns out she found out she had some serious medical stuff going on that she just didn't want to burden me with. I thought she was just getting distant because she was disinterested. Found out years later. Turns out she actually really liked me and, for various reasons I won't go into here, we were perfect for one another according to some mutual friends. She's went on to get the medical stuff fixed, managed. Unfortunately also fell into drugs and alcohol abuse and is no longer in a good place. Wish I'd have stayed and helped her through it all. You want them chronologically or alphabetically? Autobiographically. I bought a Wii U. I had just gotten a credit card for the first time, and thought I could pay it off in 2 months. Reasonably though, I could have, but things didn't work out that way. Next month I had to get a new car battery and replace a few parts, eating up what should have gone to paying the rest off. Things got worse from there. I had to leave my job to be able to graduate college, then couldn't find a job for 8 months and living off of scraps a month and having to put more and more on a credit card. It didn't get any better for a while, more things happened. I moved 3 times within a year, and now it's 4 years later. I'm just now starting to feel like I'm secure again. Credit card debt is bad, don't do it. Honestly, getting divorced. To be perfectly clear, I desperately wanted out of that marriage and I don't miss being married for 1 second. My ex-husband is narcissistic, always with an eye for increasingly younger women. After we divorced, he married a woman 30 years younger than himself, slightly younger than our oldest child. He took me to the cleaners from hell during the divorce, and even now, more than a dozen years later, he's trying to wriggle off the hook for the balance of the property settlement that I generously allowed him to pay me monthly instead of in a lump sum. To this day I tell people that if I turn up dead, he's the first person they should look at, and if they do an episode of Dateline about it, insist on getting Keith Morrison, because I love him. If I could go back to when I finally decided to get out of that god-awful marriage, I would have done it completely differently. Instead of filing for divorce, I would have happily let him carry on with whoever his latest sweet young thing was and socked away money secretly like my life depended on it. Then, after 5 years, once our youngest turned 18, I would have simply disappeared. Moved away. Changed my name. Never looked back. Now, obviously, there would have been flaws with that plan, but I can't imagine it would be any worse than what I've gone through. Selling Bitcoin at $1,000. Not taking the license plates off in case I had to flee the scene. Better luck next time. Being born. Thank you for watching, have a meme day.